Writing Better Sentences, Sentence Combining Instruction in the Classroom by Bruce Sadler and Christy Asaro Sadler. Constructing well-formed sentences is one area of writing that may be particularly difficult for less skilled writers and writers with learning disabilities. Many of these writers may benefit from direct, systematic instruction in sentence construction skills. A writing intervention called sentence combining is one way to teach these important skills. The authors explain the importance of sentence skills and the difficulties that writers may experience with sentences, summarizing the practical results and implications from recent empirical studies. The authors also discuss suggestions for creating sentence combining activities and teaching sentence. One reason educators ask students to write is to discover what the student knows about a topic. However, arriving at this place of discovery through the craft of writing can be a daunting task for students. Writing requires an attention to a physical process of putting fingers on keys or pencil to paper, and a mental process of idea creation and the wording of those ideas to effectively render thoughts. It is not surprising that these physical and mental processes can be demanding. Although many students occasionally struggle with writing, for less skilled writers and writers with a learning disability, writing can be even more challenging, particularly when trying to construct well-formed and syntactically varied sentences. These writers may generate sentences that are shorter, less syntactically complete, lower in quality, more error-filled, and less varied in vocabulary than their more skilled peers. Because sentence creation is a foundational part of the writing process, many of these writers benefit from direct, systematic instruction in sentence construction skills. A writing intervention created in the 1960s called sentence combining is one way to directly teach these important skills. However, despite strong research evidence of its effectiveness, sentence combining is not widely used in many writing workshop approaches. Therefore, to help teachers effectively supplement their writing instruction with sentence combining techniques, we explain sentence combining and summarize the important practical results and implications from recent empirical articles. We also explain research-supported methods for creating sentence combining activities and for teaching sentence combining. Sentence combining provides structured practice, manipulating and rewriting basic or kernel sentences into forms that are more syntactically mature and varied. For example, writers who might typically create short, simple sentences, such as, "The boy is short, the boy has red hair," can learn to change these sentences into more syntactically complex, mature, and interesting sentences, such as, "The short boy had red hair," or "The red-haired boy was short," depending on what element of the sentence the writer wishes to emphasize. Through practicing sentence combining techniques on the other end of the sentence creating spectrum, sentence combining practice can help writers who produce sentences that are overly complex or unclear to decombine the sentences into their basic kernels and then recombine them into a more cohesive and understandable whole. Through the process, students can learn to untangle, tighten, and focus sentences that are too complex for a reader to easily understand. In addition, sentence combining exercises can prompt students to use syntactic options in their writing by providing purposeful practice in controlling and manipulating syntax through rearranging sentence elements, which is a basic part of the revision process. Instead of producing longer sentences, this practice may help produce better sentences by teaching writers to use a variety of syntactic forms that more closely match their writer's intent. Last, through supportive discussions and feedback without the burden of producing a right answer, the anxiety many less skilled writers may have toward trying out new and different sentences can be reduced. Sentence combining further helps students, especially those with disabilities, because the practice sentences may provide content for the student. Providing content in the form of short sentences that the writer can manipulate allows practice to express ideas without the additional stress of having to develop the ideas. Furthermore, when writers are provided content for writing exercise, a major factor competing for working and short-term memory space is removed so students can concentrate attention on testing text against intentions and in modifying the developing text. Since the early 1960s, researchers have documented the positive effects of sentence combining practice with young writers through college-age writers. Consistently throughout more than 80 studies, sentence combining has positively influenced the ability of students with and without disabilities to create more complex sentences of higher quality. There is also evidence that sentence combining improves revising skills and story writing. In addition, recently, the sentence construction ability, story quality, and revising ability of young writers were improved after learning sentence combining in a peer-assisted arrangement. In Sadler and Graham's study, more skilled writers were paired with less skilled writers during instruction and were trained to support each other during the acquisition and practice of sentence writing combining practice activities. The pairing allowed the writers to work as a team to develop solutions to their exercises. In a more recent study by Sadler 2007, young writers with disabilities in an urban setting were paired in dyads for instruction. However, Sadler and Graham's 2005 study was extended in two ways. First, an effort was made to increase the generalization of sentence combining skills to story writing through two parallel writing tasks, combining a series of kernel sentences into one paragraph. See the sample activity above in Figure 1. And combining phrases into sentences and the sentences into one paragraph. See the sample activity in Figure 2. Second, the instructional pairings were adjusted so that two less skilled writers worked together in a peer-assisted framework. This pairing was used to determine how less skilled writers might complete sentence combining tasks without the help of a more skilled writer during the activities. The results support the use of sentence combining practice to increase sentence construction ability. Furthermore, story quality and writing complexity improved after sentence combining practice. Studies by both Sadler 2007 and Sadler and Graham 2005 suggest that sentence combining can be used with young writers in urban settings to improve sentence construction ability and story quality. Furthermore, that peer instruction is an effective method of arranging instruction even with two less skilled writers paired together, and that parallel writing tasks can increase the generalization of the learned sentence combining skills to story writing. Last, that such instruction can improve the amount and quality of revisions attempted. Educators can easily teach and practice sentence combining alongside the writing process approach in an inclusive classroom, resource room, or self-contained setting, because the exercises can be tailored to the student's various skill levels and can be practiced individually or in paired dyads. Writers may apply sentence combining most effectively during their revising stages as students rescan their writing to determine whether sentence level changes can be made. However, the exercises can be introduced and practiced at any time. Overall instruction, creating exercises. Before introducing sentence combining to their classes, educators need to create exercises. The best source for exercises is students' own writing. Using their work engages students at their level of understanding and may provide solutions to problems that they are experiencing with the current piece. To discover what skill to teach first, educators should analyze a sample of their students' writing to determine what skills need to be acquired, by noting, for example, any of the following. A. Many students write in short, choppy sentences. B. Others create sentences that are connected by a series of ands. Or C. Many of the sentences begin in the same manner. If several students or a whole class lacks the same skill, you can teach these activities to the entire group. For a skill sequence and additional samples of exercises, see Sadler 2007. In addition to students' own writing, educators can also create exercises from authentic literature, trade books, content area text, magazines, or any other print source by simply reducing a passage to kernel sentences. Many of these sources may also provide students with information on a new concept or may reinforce a lesson while practicing writing. Classroom activities or school events or functions, as well as students' lives and interests, could also be sources. It is not necessary to follow these suggestions sequentially, but beginning with 2 simple sentences is usually best, even if the student's writing does not have many short, choppy sentences, because educators will want to keep the initial activities uncomplicated until their students understand how to combine sentences effectively. Educators should keep the two sentences as similar as possible, except for the words to be combined. For example, sentences such as "the cat is white," "the cat is fat" is a perfect introduction to sentence combining for younger writers. The form in which the sentences are presented is very important. It is best to set up the exercises so that the base clause comes first, followed by one or more modifying sentence or sentences. The following is an example that represents this exercise. Base sentence: the bird flew. Modifying sentence: the bird is white. Combination: the white bird flew. Place connecting words in parentheses following the sentence in which they appear. For example, I went to sleep. I am very tired. Because words or phrases to be embedded into the base sentence are underlined. These serve as clue words. For example, the pie was sweet. The pie was delicious. This example could result in a combination such as the following: the delicious pie was sweet. Educators should remind their students that unnecessary information in the second sentence was eliminated and only the underlined word was included in the new combination. Once the students are comfortable with cued exercises, eliminate the underline or connecting words. Without the clue, the students must decide what material in the second sentence is important enough to include with the first when combined. For example, the monkey climbed the tree. The tree was tall. With practice, the students will understand that the word tall in the second sentence offers new information and should be included in the new combination, resulting in the following: the monkey climbed the tall tree. Such exercises can prompt students to reflect on using language in a precise way. To increase the complexity of these exercises, create problems with 3 or 4 kernel sentences to be combined. For example, the hamster was small, the hamster was furry, the hamster was gray, the hamster lived in a cage. One example of many possibilities for this set of kernels is living in the cage was a small furry gray hamster. Introducing sentence combining. After creating a series of exercises, educators should introduce sentence combining to their entire class or to a small select group of students by explaining that this activity can help writers create more interesting sentences that sound better to readers. Educators should inform their students that typically good writers often rearrange, add, or eliminate parts of their sentences to make them sound better. In addition, educators should make it clear that when finding solutions for the exercises, there is usually more than one answer and that mistakes are expected because many of the students are likely experiencing certain sentence combinations for the first time. Educators should display a small pair of kernels and overtly model a combination by sharing their thinking and suggesting why the new combination sounds better. In addition, educators should show students that when combining sentences, they may move words or parts around, delete or change parts of words, or add words or parts to the sentences to make them sound better, as skilled writers do. If necessary, educators could circle the words that are the same in both sentences and show how redundant information was eliminated. They could write several different combinations on the board and explain why some options are better than others. After modeling several combinations, educators should let the students practice independently or with a peer with teacher support as needed. Educators should write sentences on the overhead for the students to practice combining and allow the students to share several possible ways to combine the sentence either orally or by writing their suggestions on the overhead or board. Also, educators should discuss which solutions are very creative and discuss why these options are better than others. For example, sentences that contain the word "and" several times, and then in future practice sessions begin by completing several sentences orally to save time and increase the practice opportunities. Promoting sentence variety. Once the students have practiced sentence combining with simple kernel sets, teachers should move on to combining sets of kernels into paragraphs. Paragraph practice requires individual sentences to fit together into a cohesive whole. Educators may also want to provide their students with complete paragraphs that could be recombined or revised to improve clarity. For example, compound sentences could be modeled within paragraphs containing a series of short, choppy sentences. The following is a sample. It was midnight. Chandler turned off the lights. He walked upstairs. He went to bed. One way to combine these sentences could be, at midnight, Chandler turned off the lights, walked upstairs, and went to bed. Other paragraphs can have additional adjective clauses or appositives added for more sophisticated and descriptive sentences. Sentences should also be changed for better stylistic flow and rhythm. During this process, educators should focus on creating better, more meaningful sentences, not on editing the work for spelling mistakes or other technical writing problems. Sentence combining to improve revising. Because recombining sentences is a basic syntax revising activity, having students practice sentence combining can improve the number and effectiveness of the revisions they make in their stories. However, many students with disabilities may not use their sentence combining skills without direct prompting or without practice sessions that require application of the learned skill to revise their work. 2 activities can help students acquire these skills. In one activity, students edit one of their own pieces of writing, finding 2 or 3 places to change a sentence using the skill that they have learned. If necessary, educators should help them find places to make changes. In another activity, students include at least 2 sentences that target the learned skill in a new piece of writing. For example, if students are working on cause and effect subordinate clauses, there should be 2 sentences that correctly use one of the following words: because, since, so, or even though. Evaluating responses. While rating responses, students may want to describe an answer as right or wrong. However, a superior gauge of correctness is effectiveness. In other words, which version sounds better, which better conveys the author's intent. Newman's 1995 recommend 3 standards to help students determine a solution's effectiveness: clarity and directness of meaning, rhythmic appeal, and intended audience. Educators should apply these standards to sentence combinations through teacher modeling and discussion, and then have peers rate each other's responses using the standards. Conclusion. When sentence combining exercises are used as one component within a well-rounded writing program, they may help your students reduce choppy or run-on style sentences and increase their ability to make effective revisions, improving one of the fundamental building blocks of good writing, namely the ability to write effective, complete sentences through sentence combining activities, can be an important element in our approaches to helping children become better writers.